Welcome back. Now let us see plant breeding for disease resistance. Plant breeding for disease resistance. Plant breeding for disease resistance. What is resistance? Resistance is nothing but the ability to avoid the disease. The ability of the plant to avoid the disease is known as resistance. Plants are having resistance in some of the wild plants are having resistance to diseases. So those characters we have to select from those wild plants, and when the wild plants are crossed with cultivated plants, then we can get the resistance in cultivated plants. The ability to avoid the diseases is known as resistance. Now some of the diseases, let us see now. Some of the diseases in the plants which are caused by fungi. Some of the diseases caused by fungi. Now first let us see Phytophthora infestans. Phytophthora infestans. So this is Phytophthora infestans causes to late blight of potato. Late blight of potato. Late blight of potato. So this is late blight of potato is caused by a fungus called Phytophthora infestans. Next one is next fungus Phytophthora causes to late blight of potato, and Puccinia. Puccinia causes to black rust of wheat. Black rust of wheat. Black rust of wheat. And next one is Colletotrichum falcatum. Colletotrichum falcatum. Colletotrichum falcatum causes to red rot of sugarcane. Red rot of sugarcane. Red rot of sugarcane. So these are the bacteria fungus diseases. Phytophthora infestans causes to late blight of potato. Late blight of potato. And next one is Puccinia causes to black rust of wheat. Black rust of wheat. And next one is Colletotrichum falcatum. Colletotrichum falcatum causes to red rot of sugarcane. These are some of the important diseases related to fungi. And bacterial diseases, now let us see bacterial diseases. The bacterial diseases are, one example let us take, that is Xanthomonas. Xanthomonas campestris. Xanthomonas campestris. Xanthomonas campestris. Black rust of crucifers. Black rust of crucifers. Black rust of crucifers. So black rust of crucifers is caused by Xanthomonas campestris. Xanthomonas campestris. And some of the other diseases also, many diseases are there, bacterial disease also. Viral disease, one example let us see. Viral diseases. Viral diseases example is tobacco mosaic virus, TMV causes to tobacco mosaic virus. Tobacco mosaic disease. TMV is causes to tobacco mosaic diseases. So these are some of the important diseases which are caused by bacteria, fungus and viral diseases. How to get the resistance to these diseases in the bacteria, in the plants? Now let us see. While we have already discussed in the previous classes that the wild plants are called as gene banks. The wild plants are called gene banks. So which are having many disease resistant genes, because it is very clear indication that even though the wild plants do not have the support of human beings, nobody pour the water, nobody make the fencing, nobody make the fertilizers, and nobody provide them pesticides, even though they are successfully growing. Even though they are successfully growing without help of human being. Without help of human being, they are successfully growing, so that we can definitely understand that they are having some of the genes which are providing them resistance to those diseases. The wild plants are having some of the diseases which are providing them resistance to these type of diseases. Even though the cultivated plants are easily prone to affected by these diseases. Cultivated plants are prone means easily they are susceptible or prone to these diseases. Easily they are get attacked by these diseases. But the wild plants do not. the cultivated plants easily get affected by the diseases because they don't have these type of genes, resistant genes. So wild plants are having resistant genes. So that when wild plants are crossed with cultivated plants, we can bring these genes. Which genes? Those are providing resistant genes. Those are providing resistance, disease resistance. Those disease resistant genes can be transferred into cultivated plants by crossing, by the crossing. So crossing with when the crop plants are crossed with wild plants, when the crop plants are crossed with wild plants, then these diseases can be, these disease resistant genes can be transferred into these cultivated plants. So this is the process now, disease resistance. That now let us see the disease, some of the disease resistant plants. Now let us see the steps to produce disease resistant genes. So steps to produce disease resistant plants. First one is collection of variability and second one, screening of germplasm and selection of parents. Screening of germplasm and selection of parents Screening the germplasm and selection of parents. Third one is cross hybridization among the selected parents. And third one is testing of superior recombinants. And last one is testing and releasing of, so this is selection of superior recombinants. And last one is testing and releasing of new cultivars. Testing and releasing of new cultivars. So these are the methods exactly we are following in plant breeding. Whatever the type of breeding we are doing, whatever the purpose of breeding, the steps to be followed the same. The steps to be followed are same. First, collection of variability, as we have discussed, this is the root of genetic breeding program or plant breeding program. And screening of germplasm. We know germplasm means collection of plants or seeds with diverse alleles of all the genes in a crop. Collection of plants or seeds with all the diverse alleles of all the genes in a crop. So that is germplasm. And when the germplasm is screening happens, when germplasm screening happens, we will find out some of the plants which are having superior characters. The plants with superior characters should be selected as parents. So these parents should be undergo hybridization process. So that cross hybridization should be done for these selected parents. After cross hybridization, some of the progeny we will get. In this progeny, we have to select a better progeny. This is only called what? Heterosis or hybrid vigor. The hybrid vigor is having more desirable characters compared to those parents. Even the hybrid vigor is two plants we will hybridize. These two are called parents. The parental plants, when they are crossed and produce a new plant, the new plant is having more desirable characters than that of both parents. So these type of plants are called hybrid vigor or heterosis. Already we have discussed in the previous class. So that is hybrid vigor. Or next, selection of superior recombinant is very, very important. After that, testing and releasing. Scientific croplands we have to test and farmlands we have to test. Finally, if they are successfully grown, then we have to release it into market, commercialization. So commercialization means we have to release these plants into market. So these are the steps to be followed even for breeding, plant breeding for disease resistance, plant breeding for increasing food quality, plant breeding for pest resistance, whatever it is, whatever the character, ultimate the plant breeding we will do for several purposes. What is that purpose? We have already discussed that plant breeding means purposeful manipulation of two plants to produce. Purposeful manipulation of two plants to produce a new desirable plants. Purposeful manipulation of two plants to produce new desirable plants is known as breeding. So here what is the purpose? Either purpose may be food quality or food quantity, and second one, the purpose may be disease resistance, the purpose may be pest resistance. The purpose may be disease resistance or pest resistance or some any other. So whatever the purpose, if you take two plants and manipulate, means manipulation means here cross breeding. So if you do the cross breeding and produce a new better variety, then it is can be considered as plant breeding. Now plant breeding for disease resistance, we have seen these are the steps. And next one is mutational breeding. Next one is mutational breeding. Generally, a wrong notion is mutational. Now let us see mutational breeding. Generally, the wrong notion that the people think that mutation is always a disadvantage. Mutation always do not have disadvantages. Sometimes mutations also may be useful. Sometimes mutations in some of the particular type of mutations may be useful. So here mutation means, first of all, what we have to understand is mutation is nothing but a genetic change, that's all. The change may be better, good to bad or bad to good. The change may be happens bad to good or good to bad, any type. So that mutation means what we have to understand very clearly, that mutation is nothing but a genetic change. Mutation is nothing but a sudden change in the gene level. A sudden change in the gene level is called mutation. A sudden change in the gene level is called mutation. Here what we have to understand? What we have to understand? Genetic mutation is not always harmful. The genetic mutation is not always harmful. Sometimes the genetic mutations may be useful. For example, now let us see mutational breeding. What is mutational breeding? Mutational breeding means one plant we have to induce mutations in those plants. We have to induce mutations in particular genes. So some of the particular genes, they have, for example, one non-desirable gene or non-desirable phenotype. If a gene is having non-desirable phenotype, then what we have to do? We have to induce mutations by using of X-rays and gamma rays, UV rays, and providing some mutations in those genes. So that type of genes may become useful. That type of genes may become useful. So that is called mutational breeding. So bringing the desirable change in the plant. Bringing the desirable change in the plant by inducing artificial mutations. By inducing artificial mutations, we have to bring the particular or desirable changing in the phenotype. Desirable change in the phenotype we have to bring. So that desirable phenotype, when it is changed, so that is caused by mutations. What type of mutations? Artificial mutations. Simply, we have to provide some artificial mutations to the plant. So because of these artificial mutations, a desirable change we will obtain. Obtaining a desirable phenotypic change in the plants by using of artificial mutations is known as what? Mutational breeding. Example for mutational breeding is mung bean. Example for mutational breeding is mung bean. So mung bean is resistance to yellow mosaic virus. Mung bean is resistance to yellow mosaic virus, that is mutational breeding. Mutational breeding means obtaining a phenotype, obtaining the change in phenotype of a gene or phenotype of a plant by using induced mutations or by using artificial mutations. By using artificial mutations, if you induce mutation by using of artificial mutations, if you induce some, if you change the phenotype, then it is called what? Mutational breeding. Mutational breeding example is the mung bean is resistant to yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. Yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. So for these two diseases, this mung bean is resistant. So the mung bean is produced by inducing artificial mutations. Obtaining the phenotypic change in a plant by using induced mutations. Obtaining the phenotypic change in the plant by using induced mutations is called mutational breeding. Mutational breeding example is mung bean. Mung bean is example for yellow mosaic. Mung bean is resistance to yellow mosaic virus and powdery yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. Yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. And we can induce some mutations in some of the plants like mung bean, lady's finger, that is Ebilmascus esculentum. Ebilmascus esculentus. Ebilmascus esculentus. Scientific name of Ebilmascus esculentus is the scientific name of lady's finger or bindi okra. So Ebilmascus esculentus is the variety of this is the lady's finger variety. They're called Parbanikranti. Parbanikranti. Parbanikranti is the variety of lady's finger. So which is resistance to yellow mosaic virus. Yellow mosaic. This is also resistance to yellow mosaic virus. Yellow mosaic virus. So this is Parbanikranti is the variety of Ebilmascus esculentus. So here also genes are induced to produce disease resistance. So these are the examples: two bean, mung bean and Ebilmascus esculentus. Parbanikranti is resistance to yellow mosaic virus. The variety of lady's finger which is resistance to yellow mosaic virus is Parbanikranti. Very, very important. So mutational breeding we have seen. By the mutational breeding we have produced one plant, that is mung bean. It is resistance to yellow mosaic virus and at the same time powdery mildew. It is resistance to yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. Hence we need to, so this introducing disease resistant genes in high yielding varieties. Disease resistant genes we need to introduce in high yielding varieties, because by mutational breeding in the mung bean we have introduced some of the disease resistant genes, because by mutational breeding we have changed some of the gene phenotypes into disease resistance. Mung bean genes are changed to, normal genes changed to disease resistant genes by mung bean. So by mutational breeding in mung bean. Now disease resistant genes need to be transferred from wild plants to cultivated plants. In that cultivated plants, high yielding plants. So we have seen in the by using of mutational breeding in mung bean we have changed the genes into disease resistant, so that the mung bean is resistant to yellow mosaic virus and powdery mildew. Now the disease resistant genes which are present in cultivated wild plants to be transferred to cultivated plants by using the different methods. So in that one example let us see, this is Ebilmascus esculentus. Ebilmascus esculentus is the variety of lady's finger. So this is the scientific name of lady's finger. In this variety is called as Parbanikranti. In this variety is called Parbanikranti. Parbanikranti is the variety of lady's finger. Parbanikranti is a variety of lady's finger which is resistance to yellow mosaic virus. Which is resistant to yellow mosaic virus. So this is one of the variety. This variety of Parbanikranti was created by transferring the disease resistant genes from wild varieties to cultivated varieties. Parbanikranti was created when the disease resistant genes transferred from wild varieties to high yielding cultivated varieties. Now some of the examples let us see. Morphological characters. The plants follow some of the morphological characters to avoid. Disease resistance. Now let us see in the disease resistance. First one is, now let us see some of the disease resistant plants. Some of the disease resistant varieties. So first one is, plant, second one variety, and third one is, and this is, now first let us see plant, this is plant, species, and then this is variety name, and next one is this resistant to, this is resistant to the diseases, resistant to. Now first let us see, first plant is wheat. The first plant is wheat. Wheat is, the variety of wheat is Himagiri. The variety of wheat is Himgiri variety of wheat, and this is resistant to leaf stripe rust, very very important, leaf stripe rust and heel bunt, diseases, leaf stripe rust and heel bunt diseases. So that is wheat variety which is resistant to Himagiri, which is resistant to leaf stripe rust or heel bunt. That variety name is Himagiri. And the second one is Brassica. This is variety name of Brassica is Pusa swarnim. It is resistant to white rust. It is resistant to white rust. So that is resistant to white rust. And third one is, the third variety is cauliflower. The third variety is cauliflower. Cauliflower variety name is Pusa shubra and Pusa snowball. These are the two varieties. And now this is resistant to, the cauliflower is, this is resistant to black rot. And the next cauliflower, after this cauliflower, next one is cowpea. Cowpea is resistance to. Cowpea is also known as, that cowpea variety name is Pusa quamal. The variety of cowpea is Pusa quamal, and which is resistance to, and it is resistance to a bacterial blight. And next one is, last one is chili. Chili variety is resistance to, this chili variety is known as Pusa sadabahar, and it is resistance to this is resistance to yellow mosaic virus, chili mosaic virus, and tobacco mosaic virus, and leaf curl. So this is leaf curl. This is examples for some of the disease resistant varieties. Now we are seeing here the disease resistant varieties. The plant wheat is, the variety of wheat Himgiri is resistant to leaf stripe rust and heel bunt. For example, what we have to understand? For example, in one area the leaf stripe rust and heel bunt diseases are struggling. For example, in some area leaf stripe rust and heel bunt is, the plants are suffering with these two diseases. In any area, the wheat plants are suffering with these two diseases, leaf stripe rust and heel bunt diseases. Then in that area, the farmers need to cultivate the Himgiri variety of wheat. In that area particularly, these two diseases are mostly the spreading. So at the time, that in that area the farmers need to, normal wheat variety is no use, because this particular variety, Himgiri variety of wheat is resistant to leaf stripe rust and heel bunt diseases. So in that area, mostly the crop is destroying with these two diseases, then the farmers need to grow Himgiri variety. Then this variety is resistant to these two particular diseases. Understood? Next, come to this Brassica, Pusa swarnim. So if any Brassica variety is destroying with brassica crop is destroying with white rust disease, then we need to grow that variety Posa swarnim. The Posa swarnim variety of brassica is resistant to white rust. Posa swarnim is resistant to white rust. Next one is cauliflower. Now let us see cauliflower. Cauliflower variety Posa shubra or Posa snowball. It is look like snowball, right? So that Posa cauliflower variety name is Posa shubra and snowball. So when the black rust is there, when the black rust is mostly the disease, the crop is mostly suffering with black rot, then the farmers need to grow Posa shubra and Posa snowball. Then these two varieties are having resistance towards this black rot disease. Next one is cowpea. Next variety is cowpea. The cowpea variety is Pusa komal. Pusa komal is the variety name of cowpea, and it is resistant to bacterial blight. The same case here also. If the bacterial blight disease is mostly spreading in one area, then in that area farmers need to grow Pusa komal variety of cowpea. And next one, chili. Sadabahar, Pusa sadabahar, chili mosaic virus and tobacco mosaic virus. It is resistant to chili mosaic virus and tobacco mosaic virus. So these are the names we must have to remember. Wheat. See how to remember these names. Wheat himgiri. Himgiri means Himalayas towards the north. So that mostly north people will take this himgiri. North people will eat more wheat. So that in this way we have to remember himgiri. Wheat is mostly cultivated in North India only. So that Himagiris are present in North India only. Like that we have to remember. So the second one is brassica. That simply we have to remember Posa swarnim and cauliflower, Posa shubra. Generally, the shubra, it is very clean variety. That is cauliflower variety is very clean. So that it is called Posa shubra and Posa snowball. It look like, if you take that cauliflower, it looks like snowball. So that in that way, cauliflower we have to remember Posa snowball or Posa shubra. And cowpea, komal. This is simply based on the sound we can remember cowpea, komal. Posa cowpea, komal. Cowpea, Posa komal. Cowpea, komal. Like that we have to remember with the sound. Next, chili. Posa sadabahar. Generally, the chili farmers will never keep that yielding in their home. So that always they will keep outside. Sadabahar, always outside. So that simply in such a way, you have to remember these things. Otherwise, there is no other alternate. So, Posa sadabahar. Sada means always. Bahar means outside. So, always the farmers will keep that chili crop outside in the home. They will never keep that inside the home. Because that is given Posa sadabahar name. Sadabahar, always outside. That is in this way, we have to remember these names. Chili. So the chili sadabahar variety is resistant to chili mosaic and tobacco mosaic and leaf curl. Now let us see plant breeding for pest resistance. Plant breeding for pest resistance. Plants follow some of the morphological characters and some of the biochemical characters to avoid pest. Plants follow some of the morphological characters and some of the biochemical characters to avoid pest. First, let us see what are the morphological characters are followed by. The morphological characters followed by plants to avoid pest. Morphological characters. First one, let us see. Hairy leaves in cotton. Hairy leaves in cotton. Hairy leaves in cotton. Hairy leaves in cotton. Resistance to jar seeds. Hairy leaves in cotton, resistance to jar seeds. Hairy leaves in cotton, resistance to jar seeds. And next one is hairy leaves in wheat. Hairy leaves in wheat, resistance to cereal leaf beetles. Cereal leaf beetles. Hairy leaves in cotton. Resistance to jar seeds, and hairy leaves in wheat resistance to cereal leaf beetles. Means these two insects or these two worms do not come when the cotton is having leaves and when the wheat is having hairs on the leaves. The jar seeds cannot attract a cotton plant when the cotton plant leaves are having hairs. Jar seeds cannot attack when the leaves of cotton contains hair. And the cereal leaf beetles cannot attack the wheat plant when it contains hay. So that these are the two morphological characters followed by that cotton plant and wheat plant to avoid jassids and cereal leaf beetles respectively. And next one is solid stem in wheat. Solid stem in wheat does not attract, solid stem in wheat does not attract stems of fly. Stems of fly means it means it cuts the tree, right? Saw means it cuts the tree like this. The people will use, that is saw. So stems of fly means it cuts the tree, it cuts the stem of the wheat plant like that one, like a saw. So that is called stems of fly. But when the solid stem is there in the wheat, but the stems of fly cannot cut the stem. So that is generally the stem of wheat plant is not solid, hollow. So that stems of fly easily it cuts the stem. But when the solid stem is there, means in the woody stem is there, that some little bit woody, not botanical woody. Botanical woody means secondary growth should be happen. That is not in this case. Solid stem, little bit solid stem is there, then stems of fly cannot cut this wheat stem. Next one is hairy leaves and smooth leaves and nectarless cotton. Smooth leaves and nectarless cotton. Nectarless cotton. Smooth leaves and nectarless cotton do not attract bollworms. Do not attract bollworms. So here one thing we have to understand, the cotton, one doubt you may get, that is jassids are not affect the plant when the hairs are there. When smooth leaves are there, bollworms will not attack. Here bollworms will not attack to the plants which are having smooth leaves in cotton. So okay, this plant is good for avoiding bollworms. But the smooth leaves are interested to jassids. So the jassids may attack this plant. Even the bollworms are not attacking, jassids may attack this plant because jassids do not like hairs on the leaves in cotton plant. In cotton plant, the hairy leaves do not liked by jassids. So the jassids may attack this plant. So what is this? The doubt is how to understand is this: the places where the jassids are more, jassids are mostly destroying the crops. In that place, we have to use the hairy leaves cotton. The area in which more bollworms are destroying the cotton crops, then in that place smooth leaves and nectarless cotton we must have to use. Understood? So that is the difference. Next one is smooth leaves and nectarless cotton. So these are the totally 4 characters we are seeing, morphological characters. These are the 4 morphological characters, so which are used to avoid pest. Next one is biochemical characters. Biochemical characters. The biochemical characters, now let us see the biochemical characters in the maize plant. Let us see biochemical characters in the maize plant. So in maize plant, low levels of nitrogen and sugars, and high levels of aspartic acid. So these two are biochemical characters in maize. So the maize stem borers will be avoided. Maize stem borers will be attached. So maize stem borers, stem bollworms, and this is stems of fly, right? So stem borers, maize and low nitrogen sugar and high aspartic acid. In maize, low nitrogen and high aspartic acid. Low nitrogen and sugar, high levels of aspartic acid present means in the maize. So maize stem borers cannot attack. This is what we can say morphological and chemical characters, biochemical characters to avoid pest. Some of the plant varieties show resistance to pest. Now let us see some of the plant varieties show resistance to pest. So first one is, there are 3 varieties are there. First one, let us see. The first one is what we have to see, plant, and next variety, name of the variety, and third one is shows resistance to. shows resistance to. First one is, name of the species is Brassica rapeseed. So then this variety name is Pusa Gaurav. The variety name is Pusa Gaurav. Pusa Gaurav is the variety of Brassica, and it is resistance to jacids. Sorry, it is resistance to aphids. It is resistance to aphids. It is resistance to aphids. Next variety is Brassica. Next variety is flat bean. Flat bean is this variety of flat bean. So this name is Pusa sem 2, Pusa sem 2, and Pusa sem 3. Pusa sem 3. So these are what flat bean shows resistance to jacids, aphids, and stem borers, and stem and fruit borers. Sorry, stem and fruit borers. This is fruit borers. So that is jacids, aphids, Pusa sem 2 and Pusa sem 3. Flat bean varieties Pusa sem 2 and Pusa sem 3 are shows resistance to jacids, aphids, and fruit borers. Next one is, last one is, that is okra. Okra is also known as bendi. So this is Pusa savani or Pusa A4 varieties. These are Pusa A4 varieties. So these are shows resistance to stem and fruit borers. So these are the some of the plant varieties showing resistance to pest. The first one variety plant is the plant is Brassica, and it shows the variety of Brassica is Pusa Gaurav, and it shows resistance to aphids. Second one is flat bean, the Pusa sem and Pusa sem 3. It shows resistance to jacids, aphids, and fruit borers. Next one is okra bendi. Okra bendi is also this variety name is Pusa savani or Pusa A4. And this Pusa savani and Pusa A4 varieties, these varieties are resistant to stem and fruit borers. So these are some of the resistant varieties. Now let us see biofortification. Biofortification is breeding of plant crops. For high levels of vitamins, proteins, and minerals and healthy fats. Healthy fats is known as biofortification. Breeding of plant crops for breeding for high levels of vitamins, proteins, and minerals and healthier fats is known as any one of these. At least any one of these is there means that is called as biofortification. Especially biofortification means fortified varieties. Fortified varieties means those varieties are they have breeded for specialized proteins or vitamins or minerals or healthy fats. So that is called biofortification. Plant breeding for production of high levels of vitamins and proteins and minerals and healthier fats. So this is called biofortification. Breeding of plant crops for high levels of vitamins, proteins, minerals, and healthy fats is called biofortification. So there are two examples for biofortified varieties. The first one is golden rice. Golden rice is the variety of rice and which is more vitamin A. Vitamin A is rich in this golden rice. So golden rice is a fortified variety of rice. Golden rice is a fortified variety of rice which contains vitamin A, high levels of vitamin A. Next one is, important thing is Atlas 66, and it is high levels of proteins. This is fortified for high levels of proteins in IARI, Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi. Indian Agriculture Research Institute, New Delhi. That is biofortification. Single cell proteins. Single cell proteins. Single cell proteins means the cell contains more than 65 proteins are cultivated for or growing for human consumption. The single cells are the single cell which contains more than 65 proteins. For example, spirulina. Spirulina is variety. The spirulina is a blue-green algae. Spirulina is a blue-green algae. It contains 65% of protein and it is used as single cell protein. And the spirulina species are dried and made like a powder, and finally it will be available, made, sometimes it is made as a cakes, and it is available for human consumption. So because each and every cell in this spirulina contains more than 65% of proteins, so that this is a good protein source. It is a good protein source. This is a good protein source, so that this is used as single cell protein. Single cell protein. For example, if you take 250 kgs of one cow, the cow weight is 250 kgs, but it produces 200 grams of protein per day. 200 grams of protein per day. 200 grams of protein only per day. For example, Methylophilus and Methylotrophus. For example, 250 grams of Methylophilus if you take, it produces 250 tons of protein per day. It produces 250 tons of protein per day. That is that single cell protein. So this is done by bacteria, Methylophilus and Methylotrophus. If you compare the protein productivity in a cow, this is in a cow, 250 grams of cow produces 200 grams of protein per day, but a bacteria produces 250 grams of bacteria only enough. 250 grams of, not kgs. 250 grams of bacteria produces 250 tons of protein per day. So that these bacteria and the spirulina species are used as good protein sources. So that these are called single cell proteins. Short form is SCP, single cell proteins. For single cell proteins, the plant species or bacteria species or fungal species, all are used. For example, the bacteria, these species which are containing the bacteria species, fungal species, yeast species, algae, cyanobacteria, all are used as single cell protein, but all the species are not used as single cell proteins, because some of the species of algae, some of the species of bacteria, and some of the species of fungus, they are used as single cell protein. They can produce more than, spirulina species contains more than 65 proteins in their cell, but bacteria like Methylophilus and Methylotrophus produces 250 tons of protein per day. So all the species like cyanobacteria, bacteria, algae and fungi, these are all the species can produce single cell proteins. Now let us see some of the examples. Some of the examples, for example, if you take algae, in algae, chlorella and Cnidesmus. Chlorella and Cnidesmus, these two are used as, these are the two examples in algae which are used as single cell proteins. In bacteria, now let us see. In bacteria, Methylococcus and Methylotrophus. Methylococcus and Methylotrophus. Methylotrophus are used as, Methylococcus and Methylotrophus used as single cell proteins. Methylococcus and Methylotrophus used as single cell protein. And in fungi, yeast is used as, yeast is a source of single cell protein, and Candida, some of the Candida species are used as single cell protein. Some of the Candida species only, not all. Some of the Candida species are used as single cell proteins, and in cyanobacteria, We know already cyanobacteria, we have discussed cyanobacteria. Example for cyanobacteria which is used as a single cell protein is spirulina. Spirulina. So these are the examples. So that what we have to understand, single cell proteins can be produced by these are the groups: algae, bacteria, fungi and cyanobacteria. Single cell proteins can be produced by these algae, bacteria, fungi and cyanobacteria, and these are the good source of proteins. The last concept of this lesson is tissue culture. The term tissue, the tissue culture was first time done by introduced by Haberland. Introduced by Haberland. Tissue culture introduced by Haberland. What is tissue culture? Growing of a plant cell or a tissue. Growing of a plant cell or a tissue. Growing of a plant cell or a tissue in a nutrient medium, under controlled conditions to produce a new whole plant. Under controlled conditions to produce a new whole plant. So this is called new whole plant is produced finally. This is called tissue culture. Tissue culture is nothing but growing of a plant cell or a tissue or an organ like pollen grains, ovum, anything. So that is plant tissue culture means growing of a plant cell or a tissue or an organ in the nutrient medium under controlled conditions. Here this controlled conditions meaning is what? Let us see. Under controlled conditions to produce a new whole plant is called tissue culture. So controlled conditions means by using hormones. Controlled conditions means by using hormones. So this is the meaning of controlled conditions. For example, auxins, gibberellins, cytokinins and abscisic acid, ethylene, these type of hormones we have to use, and we have to use these hormones and induce plant growth, induce cell division and inducing cell differentiation, inducing organogenesis, etc. So by using of these things, these hormones, we have to induce these developments. By using of these hormones, we have to induce these developments, and finally a new whole plant will be produced. So this process is called tissue culture, growing of a new plant cell. So growing of a plant cell or a tissue or an organ, growing of a plant tissue or a plant cell or an organ in a nutrient medium by controlled conditions to produce a new whole plant is called tissue culture. In the tissue culture, the plants which are produced, those are called soma clones. The plants which are produced in the tissue culture are called soma clones. These are genetically identical to the parents, because one cell we will take from this cell only, again the cell will produce many cells, same type of cells, so that the genetic nature of the plants produced in tissue culture is exactly same to the parental plant. So that this is called, these plants are called soma clones. We know already what is meant by clone. Clone means a genetically identical plant to the parental plant, right? That is called clone. But here soma clones means the genetically identical plants which are produced in tissue culture experiments. The genetically identical plants which are produced in tissue culture experiments. Genetically non-identical plants we cannot produce in tissue culture. This is a kind of vegetative reproduction. Simply this is a kind of vegetative reproduction only, but this is just like vegetative, not a kind of vegetative reproduction. It is just like vegetative reproduction, that's all. But process is completely different from that. By taking a single cell, by using artificial nutrient medium, by the controlled conditions, means by using of many hormones, we have to induce the organogenesis, cell division, cell modification, and by doing these processes, we have to produce a new whole plant. This is called tissue culture. In the tissue culture, from a single cell, we can produce more number of plants. All these plants are genetically similar to that parental plant. So that these plants are called soma clones. What are soma clones? The plants which are produced in tissue culture experiments, which are identical to their parental plants. So these plants are called soma clones. Now let us see what is totipotency. Now totipotency. Totipotency means the ability of the plant cell. This ability is only there for plant cells, not for animal cells. One plant cell, if you take and kept in nutrient medium under controlled conditions, a new whole plant will come in plant cells only. But if you take one human cell and keep it in a controlled medium or a nutrient medium, a new human being will not come. That process is different, human cloning. Okay, this is totipotency. Totipotency means the ability of the plant cell to give rise to new plant. This process is called totipotency. The ability of a plant cell to give rise to a new whole plant is called, the ability of plant cell to give rise to a new whole plant is called totipotency. The ability of a plant cell to give rise to a new whole plant is called totipotency. Next one is explant. Totipotency and explant. Next, explant. What is explant? Explant is, for example, one plant, desirable plant we find. In the desirable plant, we have to take one particular, in this desirable plant, we have to take one particular cell, and this cell we have to cultured in nutrient medium. So that cell will produce a new whole plant. That is process. But the plant cell which is taken from the plant, no, that plant cell is called or plant tissue or plant organ which is collected from a desirable plant for tissue culture experiments is called explant. For example, if you find a desirable plant, from that plant for the tissue culture purpose you have taken out a cell. This cell is called explant, not that plant. This cell is called explant. The cell or a tissue which is removed from a desirable plant for tissue culture experiments is known as explant. Let us see the process in a diagram. So now let us see the diagrammatic representation of this tissue culture. In the tissue culture, first this we have taken from a desirable plant, so that this is called explant. This may be, here we can take a single cell or a tissue or a pollen grain or any other part of the plant. Here pollen grain also we can take, or single cell we can take, and any other tissue we can take. So this is called explant, because this explant is, it is not the part of plant now. So once upon a time it was the, means before that, before this experiment it was a part of the plant. Now it is explant. Understood? So that is explant. So this explant is maybe a single cell or a tissue, or any other organ. So then this single tissue, this is nutrient medium. Here we can see this is totally nutrient medium, and in this nutrient medium hormones also present. The hormones like cytokinins and auxins responsible for the cell division in this explant, so that this cell division produces a mass of tissue. This mass of tissue is known as callus. The mass of tissue is known as callus. The mass of undifferentiated tissue. What is callus? A mass of undifferentiated tissue which is formed from explant due to multiple mitosis divisions. Explant undergoes multiple mitosis divisions. Due to these multiple mitosis divisions, an undifferentiated mass of tissue. Still it is not differentiated. Undifferentiated mass of tissue produced. This undifferentiated mass of tissue is called callus. Then because of other hormones, the callus undergo organogenesis and produce a new plant. This is, the new plant is produced in this process. So this new plant is produced by using of nutrient medium and controlled by hormones in this medium. Finally, from a single cell, a new plant will be produced. This process is tissue culture. In this process, in the middle, what happens? A callus is produced. Callus is nothing but undifferentiated mass of tissue. What is callus? Undifferentiated mass of tissue. Undifferentiated mass of tissue is called callus. Undifferentiated mass of tissue is called callus. And this undifferentiated mass of tissue is produced from explant due to the repeated mitosis divisions. Due to the repeated mitosis divisions, undifferentiated mass of tissue is produced from this explant due to the repeated mitosis divisions. So that is called callus. That is called callus. And the plant which is produced, this is called a clone, also known as soma clone. And this is identical to this plant because identical to the parental plant, because the parental plant cell is taken, the parental plant cell is formed undifferentiated mass of tissue, and it is formed finally a plant. So that this plant genetic nature is exactly a Xerox copy of the parental plant. So that this is new plant is known as clone. The new plant is known as clone because it is similar in genetic nature with its parental plants. This is totally what tissue culture. In the tissue culture applications, now let us see the applications of tissue culture. What are the applications of tissue culture are there? First one is somatic hybridization. The first application is micropropagation. Micropropagation is nothing but formation of numerous number of plants. Formation of more number of plants within the short time and within the short period is known as micropropagation. Micropropagation means production of more number of tissue by using of a small or minute explants. By using of minute explants, creation of more number of plants is known within a short period of time is known as micro. Micro means by using of small minute explants, creation of more number of plants within the rapidly within the short span of time is known as micropropagation. Second one is somatic hybridization, very important application. Somatic hybridization. What is somatic hybridization? Fusion of protoplast. Somatic hybridization means what? What is somatic hybridization? Fusion of protoplast is known as somatic hybridization. Fusion of protoplast, two different, one protoplast is taken from one plant, another protoplast is taken from another desirable plant. These two protoplasts are kept inside the test tube or in the nutrient medium to fuse. And after fusion of these two protoplasts, a diploid plant is produced, or a diploid plant or a tetraploid plant is formed. If it is two diploid cells are fused, then tetraploid plant will form. So this is polyploid plants also we can produce by using of this somatic hybridization. First, somatic hybridization means what? Fusion of protoplast in nutrient medium is called somatic hybridization. Fusion of protoplast in nutrient medium, fusion of two different protoplasts in nutrient medium is called what? Somatic hybridization. What is protoplast? When a plant cell is removed, its cell wall, when a plant cell, a cell wall is removed, then it is called protoplast. Of course, animal cell is a protoplast. In a plant cell, if you remove a cell wall, then that is called a protoplast. The two protoplasts of two different desirable plants we have to take, and allowing these two protoplasts to fuse in nutrient medium to form a new hybrid plant is called somatic hybridization. And somaclonal variations means what? What are somaclonal variations? The variation here, the genetic material is there, some genetic material is there in this X plant. This genetic information will come to the same plant, but sometimes due to any other inducing mutations or due to some other changes, if any small variations are formed in tissue culture, those are called somaclonal variations. And third one is very important thing is meristem culture. Meristem culture is another important application of tissue culture. In the meristem culture, what we have to create? In the meristem culture, we can create disease-free plants. In the meristem culture, we can create disease-free plants from a diseased parents. For example, one desert plant is left for one particular variety. One plant is only there. That plant is having disease. The plant is having disease, but it is very desirable plant. So from the desirable plant, we need a disease free plants. So that viral free plants or disease free plants, if you want to get meristem culture, we have to use. Because inside the meristem undergoes rapid cell divisions. Meristem undergoes rapid cell divisions, so that in this rapid cell divisions place, in this rapid dividing cells, virus cannot survive. Meristem undergoes rapid cell divisions, so that in these meristem cells, virus cannot survive, because the replication time of virus is greater than that of the replication of cells. So that viral cells are slowly replicate than that of these meristem cells. So that meristem cells faster they will undergo many changes and they will rapidly divide, so that virus cannot stay inside these meristem cells. So that if a plant, entire plant is getting disease, but in the meristem the virus cannot survive. So that if you take the meristem, from that meristem if you produce more number of plants, those plants obviously disease free, and there will be similar copies of parental plant. There will be similar copies of parental plant. This is very, very important culture, meristem culture. Meristem, by using of meristem culture, we can produce disease-free plants from a desirable diseased parents. Disease-free plants can be produced from diseased parents. So that is importance of meristem culture, because meristem rapidly divides, so that in that meristem cells, virus cannot stay. Virus cannot stay. Why virus cannot stay in meristem cells? Because the replication time of virus is faster than that of meristem, slower than that of meristem cells. Meristem cells fastly undergo divisions, but viral cells somewhat slowly undergo divisions. So that the viral replication is slower than that of meristem replication. So that meristem cells fastly divide, so that virus cannot stay in meristem cells. So one diseased plant is there, means from the diseased plant we can produce disease free plants by using of this meristem culture. And fourth one is haploid plants we can produce. How we can produce haploid plants? We can produce haploid plants by culturing pollen grains and egg cells. Pollen grains are female gamete. Pollen grains are cells from the female gametophyte. We can take and we can create a haploid plant, because they are haploid cells. Pollen grain is haploid. If the haploid cell is cultured, then haploid plant will come. That's what. We can create haploid plants. Next one is, fifth one is embryo rescue. Embryo rescue also we can do. Embryo rescue. So embryo rescue, how can we do embryo rescue? Generally, in some plants, if the embryo not able to grow, in those embryos, those seeds, the embryos will be obtained, and these embryos will be kept inside the nutrient medium under controlled conditions, and these embryos will grow because of the action of hormones, and it will produce a new plant. So this is, in this embryo rescue also we can do by using of this tissue culture. So these are the applications of tissue culture. These are the total uses or applications of tissue culture. These are the total applications of tissue culture. So first one is micropropagation. Micropropagation means production of large number of plants from a minute explant within the short span of time. Production of more number of plants from a minute explant within the small amount of time. So that is called micropropagation. Somatic hybridization. Fusion of two protoplasts of two different plants to create a new plant is called somatic hybridization. Next one is meristem culture. By using of meristem culture, we can produce disease-free plants from a diseased parent. Next one, haploid plants. We can create haploid plants by culturing the pollen grains or egg cells. Next one, embryo rescue. In any seed, embryo is not able to grow, that embryos will be extracted, and that embryos will be introduced to nutrient medium under controlled conditions. Under controlled conditions, they will be become into a new whole plants. This is embryo rescue. These are the applications we can see for tissue culture.